What's up, everyone? Just wanted to check in a little bit. This is my backyard, so just wanted to give you guys just a little bit more of insight into my life. But as I do that, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about some commentary on Romeo and Juliet. Just some of the basics in case you read it and you were like, what the heck just happened? Because lots went on in Act 1. So I just want to address that with you guys really quickly. So there's just a couple of things that I want to go through as we process through this. So I've got my book right here, my fabulous book. I've got my notes, and we're ready to party. Okay? So first things first, let's talk about this prologue. All right? Shakespeare gives away the entire show in the first 12 lines of the play. He gives it all away, right? So he tells us, he's like, okay, hey, there are two feuding families and they've been fighting for like ever. Everybody knows how long they've been fighting. But guess what? There's going to be a person from one family and a person from another family. They're going to fall in love and it's going to be so amazing, except for the fact that somebody is going to die. There will be murder on both sides. Foreshadowing or spoiler alert. I say spoiler. Then he's like, okay, so these two lovers are gonna, like, they're star-crossed, they're gonna fall in love, it's gonna be amazing, and then they're gonna kill themselves because their parents can't get along. It's gonna be so fun. Get ready for the stage production of Romeo and Juliet. Great, so that happens, and then they're like, but wait a second, at the end of the story, not that sad. It's gonna end the feud, so get excited for that. That's in the prologue. 12 lines. And they tell us the entire play. Straight up. Then we move in to scene 1. All right? And it starts off not with like any romance. This is the greatest love story ever told. It doesn't start off with any romance. Oh, no. It starts off with fight between the servants of the Capulets and the Montagues. All right? So Samson and Gregory come out and they're talking all kinds of smack. And they're like, yeah, I bet if a Montague woman came in here, I could sexually assault her. No big deal. And Gregory's like, no, you couldn't. And Samson's like, I would. And I'd beat up any Montague boy who came across here too. And Gregory's like, yeah, prove it. And all of a sudden, a Montague servant comes around the corner and Gregory's like, dude, here's your chance. Bet, let's go. And Samson's like, maybe we'll just like walk by him and we're going to flip them off. Okay. So that's like the biting your thumb thing. I was like, no. We're not going to start a fight because like we're above that. So we're going to bite our thumb at them, essentially flipping them off. And then they'll know that like we hate them. So they go through and they bite their thumb, right? And all of a sudden, Abraham's like, excuse me? Did you just bite your thumb at me? Samson's like, what? No. Why would I? I mean, like, I've bitten my thumb before, but I don't know what you're talking about. And Abraham's like, did you do it? Have you seen those animals on Animal Planet that like the birds, they're almost always male. Sorry guys, but they almost always are male. And they're like fighting at each other and they're yelling, they're going, but they're not actually fighting. They're just like asserting their masculine dominance. They're both just like talking mad smack. And all of a sudden, Tybalt comes around the corner and Samson and Gregory are like, yeah, our guy's here. Let's fight. Let's do this because like our master's going to take care of it. And then Benvolio shows up as a whole kerfuffle. Benvolio's like, I want to keep the peace. Everybody's so great. Like, let's be friends. And Tybalt's like, nah, man. I'm going to beat you up. I hate all of this. I hate all of you guys. Let's make this happen. So they all fight. And the prince comes out. And he's like, Capulets, Montagues. This has happened 3 times now. 3 times you have disturbed our streets. I'm over it. So the next time that the Capulets and Montagues want to like go at it, someone's going to get the death penalty. Everybody disperses. And they're like, okay, no big deal. I'll just like back away. And we get to meet Lord Montague, Lady Montague, and we get to, it's like the one time she's in the show. And then we get to meet, like talk to Benvolio a little bit more. And they're like, dude, Romeo's not here. Where the heck is he? And Benvolio is like, I don't know. I know he's been like crying in his bedroom a lot and like walking on the outskirts of woods. all kinds of sulky. And Lady Montague is like, can you please find out what happened? What's going on? Like, is he okay? And Benvolio's like, Auntie, don't even worry about it. I'm going to go take care of it. I'm going to talk to Romeo and I'm going to figure out the situation. So they get out of there. Benvolio goes up to Romeo and he's like, Romeo, why are you such a flippin' downer? And Romeo's like, I love a girl. And Benvolio's like, dude, there are lots of girls out there. Why do you need to just love the one? And Romeo's like, you don't understand. This girl is my everything. She's the sun, the moon, the stars, and my whole world revolves around her. She's so beautiful. I've never met her. I've never talked to her, but I know I love her. And Benvolio is like, okay, man, tell me who you love and we can like maybe work out a solution. And Romeo's like, I love Rosalind, not Juliet. He's like, he hasn't even met Juliet. She's like, Rosalind. So he's madly in love with this girl named Rosalind, who happens to be Juliet's cousin. Romeo is like, but here's the problem. She wants to become a nun. So, I mean, like, I'm kind of SOL in this situation. And now I'm just going to cry about it for X amount of days because I'm super sad and depressed. And Benvolio is like, okay. Here's the situation. I know that there's a party tonight happening at the Capulet household. Rosalind will be there, but so will every other hot girl in Verona, which is in Italy, in case we didn't know. And he's like, let's go to the party and I'm gonna hook you up with another girl, man. He's such a good friend. Like, that's the best way to handle a situation when your friend can't get over somebody. You say, dude, let's hook you up with somebody else because that will get rid of all the feelings. So Romeo's like, fine, whatever, I'll go to the party. Meanwhile, on another part of the stage, Paris and Lord Capulet are having a little conversation about marriage. So Capulet has this daughter, right? Juliet. And she's almost 14 years old. So she's like 13 and 12 months. Paris is like, I need that girl. Like, I want that girl. And Capulet's like, she is a little young. Are you sure? Like, we can't just like work out something. Paris is probably like in his 30s, maybe 40s. But this was very common back then. So don't like look at me and be like, ew, that's gross. Like, it's very common. So Capulet's a little bit hesitant. He's like, this is my last child. I've had lots of other kids and they've all died. And I'm really worried that it's going to be too young. And Paris is like, definitely not too young. There are women in our town who are younger than her who are moms. So I think we can make this work. And Capulet's like, okay. Here's the situation. We're going to do the party tonight. At the party, you will need to woo her. For those of you young people out there, to woo someone means to like make them fall in love with you. And so Capulet says, go woo her at the party. And if she ends up liking you, then we can maybe work out a deal of some kind. And Paris is like, done, let's make it happen. Lights up on scene 2. And we've got Lady Capulet, who is over the moon that she just found out that Paris, one of the most eligible bachelors in all of Verona, wants her daughter to get married. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's good for you to know, women during this time, our only value was in A, our looks, B, our ability to keep a home, and C, our ability to produce male heir. For Juliet to get married off to somebody who was not 87 years old, who was wealthy, was a huge flippin' deal. So Lady Capulet's like, I'm winning Mother of the Year. This is what's happening. So she goes in to like tell Juliet about this, and we meet the nurse. Now, the nurse and Juliet are like best friends. So it's really common during this time in the aristocracy for the women to not like breastfeed their kids, or for the like aristocratic women to like birth the child and then give it off to somebody else. Okay. So the nurse is the person that like Juliet was given off to as a child. So Lady Capulet's not really winning any mom awards. So the nurse and Juliet are like best friends, mom-daughter situation, and the nurse won't shut up about Juliet and like how she's like, oh my gosh, I watched you when you took your first steps and then you fell over on your face and it was so adorable. And Lady Cap's like, shut up, we need to talk about this marriage situation. So she tells her about the marriage situation and everybody's so excited, and we get to find out that Paris is actually super good looking. So not only is he wealthy, he's moderately aged, and he's super hot. Let's go. And Lady Capulet says, what do you think about this, girl? And Juliet's like, it's an honor I dream not of. Which is weird for a woman during this time, because her entire value is wrapped up in who she's married to. So for Juliet to just like sit back and be like, I don't really think about it, is a huge deal and gives us an impression as to her as a person and what she values. She doesn't value classic things. This is very important to remember and to keep in mind. Lady Capulet's like, that is not the answer I wanted. Get dressed for the party, and then when Paris comes around, just make sure like you look good and let's deal with it. And Juliet's like, okay, I guess we'll see where you go. That was the morning, right? So it's probably like Sunday morning, maybe like Sunday morning, right? They have this huge fight. Sunday night, they have this huge party. This is like what you do apparently in Verona, Italy in the 1400s. So they have this huge party, and then it's Sunday night and we meet Mercutio. Mercutio is kind of another neutral party. So Mercutio and Paris are part of the prince's family. So they're like separate from the Capulets and the Montagues. And there are other people who live in Verona, but for just right now, let's just talk about those three families. So Mercutio is really good friends with Romeo, and he comes out and he's like, I cannot wait for this. Romeo, stop being such a pansy. Get over yourself. We're having a good time. We're going to the party. And Romeo's like, I don't want to. Like, I'm just sad I'm not in love with stuff. And Mercutio's like, dude, just take love for the one thing that it has to offer us men. So Mercutio's a little bit of a playboy, and he's like, this is like, love is only good for who you have for that night, and then we move on to the next one. He's very crass about it. I'm not going to get into details, but it was pretty vulgar. So then Romeo's like, well, but I don't want to. I don't want to go because I had like a dream about it. And Mercutio goes into this huge long monologue about how like dreams like don't really matter, and they're children's stuff, and they're like, you might as well be believing in fairies or like in Santa Claus if you believe in what dreams are saying. So he says, buck up, put your mask on, we're going to the Capulet party, because Mercutio got an invitation. So they put the masks on, and right at the end of the scene, Romeo's like, oh no, I have this really bad feeling that something's gonna happen tonight. Something does happen. Okay, we're in the home stretch. So finally we have scene 5, which takes us to the night of the party. It's probably about like 11 o'clock or midnight by the time that the boys arrive at the party. So everybody is very well lubricated, if you know what I mean. Keep in mind during this time that most people did not drink water because water was not safe. So the drink of choice was booze. So we're already into the night of revelries, and Benvolio is trying to hook up Romeo and like, hey, look, there's Rosalind. Doesn't she look ugly and doesn't she look like a crow against all of these really hot girls? Romeo's like, I'm still sad. I'm super sad. And then all of a sudden, lights come up and Juliet enters the space, and Romeo's like, oh my gosh, have I ever loved till now? And the rest of us are thinking, yeah, dude, like 5 seconds ago you just loved, and now he's like, on to the next girl. I'm just saying. So he does this huge monologue about how super hot Juliet is and how much he wants her, and all of a sudden Tybalt overhears it, and he's like, is that a Montague? Oh my gosh, I think that's friggin' Romeo. I'm gonna beat his butt. So he goes up to his uncle and he says, Uncle Capulet, Lord Capulet, we got to deal with this, because this is an egregious oversight on like everybody. How did he get in here? Lord Capulet's like, dude, it's Romeo. I've heard that Romeo's a good guy. I've heard that he's a nice guy. I've heard that everybody talks about how he's a good person. So just suck it up, leave it alone, and let's call it good. And Tybalt's like, I'm not doing that. And Capulet grabs him by the collar. I assume it's the collar. Grabs him by the collar, and he says, you will endure him, and you will get your poop in a group, get over yourself, or get the hell out. Okay, then. So Tybalt's super embarrassed because he just got reprimanded like a child in front of everybody. And so he ends up leaving, but he's like, oh, wait, this is not going to go unanswered. He will pay for this. So Romeo and Juliet finally meet. Romeo like pulls her aside and he's like, girl, I got some sweet rhymes to like spit at you. And she's like, oh my gosh, I've like never been wooed before. This is so wonderful. And he's like, I think that like, I feel like I'm a worshiper at your feet. And there's all these like religious odes and tone to the story. He's using all this religious language about how he wants to worship her and how she's so beautiful. And she's blushing and she's like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea that you felt this way, and please don't talk to me like that because it's a little inappropriate. And he's like, you don't understand. I love you. Can we hold hands for a second? And she was like, maybe. And then he's like, see how our hands are touching? You know what should also touch? Our lips. So they kiss, and it's this magical, beautiful moment, and like they fall even more in love. And then all of a sudden Capulet's like, okay everybody, party's over, let's like end this thing and let's bounce out of here. So Juliet gets taken away from him, and Romeo gets pulls aside the nurse, and he's like, who is that woman? I need to know. And the nurse is like, that's Juliet, she's like the daughter of Lady Capulet and Lord Capulet. Like, it's a big deal, okay, buddy? And he's so disappointed and so distraught. And he's like, oh my gosh, my love is my foe? How did this happen? So then he gets rushed off by Benvolio. Then Juliet pulls aside the nurse because she's very taken with this stranger who started holding her hand and kissing her. So she pulls the nurse aside and she says, nurse, go find out who that guy is. And the nurse does this adorable thing where she's like, which guy? And Juliet's like, that guy, the one that we obviously don't know who he is. And the nurse is like, oh, let me go ask. So she goes and asks, and she finds out that it's Romeo Montague. And Juliet's like, are you kidding? Are you freaking kidding me right now? I'm like, how is this possible? And that's how we end the first act.